The world in 2026 is faster than anything we were prepared for. Technology moves quicker than our thoughts. Attention is pulled in 100 directions at once, and most people feel mentally exhausted before the day has even begun. You can do everything right on the outside, work harder, stay busy, keep up, and still feel scattered, restless, and overwhelmed on the inside. This constant mental noise isn't a personal failure. It's the environment we're living in. A world that never slows down, slowly trains the mind to never rest. Here is the truth most people never hear. Your mind is not broken. You are not weak. You are not failing at life. Your mind is simply untrained. Just like a body that was never taught how to move properly, the mind reacts automatically, jumps from thought to thought, and drains your energy without permission. Buddhism understood this long before modern life made it obvious. The problem is not thinking. The problem is letting the mind run without guidance, without awareness, without direction. This video is not here to motivate you, hype you up, or give you empty encouragement. It is a quiet guide for learning how to lead your mind in a noisy world. Because when you stop fighting your thoughts and start understanding them, something changes. Life may not become easier overnight, but your mind becomes steadier. And when the mind is steady, you can face anything without being pulled apart from the inside. Lesson 1. Why the mind feels harder to control in 2026. In 2026, the mind is under a kind of pressure humans were never trained for. From the moment you wake up, there is constant stimulation, notifications, opinions, news, comparisons, expectations. Everyone has something to say about how you should live, think, look, and succeed. Your attention is pulled outward all day, and by the time the world finally grows quiet, your mind refuses to do the same. This is why so many people feel restless, even when nothing is wrong. The mind has had no space to rest, no moment to settle. This isn't a personal weakness, it's the condition of modern life. Buddhist philosophy explains this clearly and compassionately. The mind reacts faster than wisdom. Before awareness has a chance to step in, a thought appears, followed by emotion, followed by reaction. In earlier times, life moved slowly enough for reflection to arise naturally. In today's world, reactions stack on top of each other without pause. A single thought turns into a story turns into anxiety turns into exhaustion. The Buddha never taught that thoughts must be eliminated. He taught that an unobserved mind becomes restless, and a restless mind creates suffering. This is where many people misunderstand the problem. They believe the issue is that they think too much, that their mind is broken, negative, or weak. Buddhism offers a gentler truth. Thoughts are not the enemy. The real difficulty comes from identifying with every thought that appears. The moment a thought arises and you say, "This is me," or "This must be true," the mind loses balance. A passing idea becomes an identity. A temporary emotion becomes a personal verdict. The suffering does not come from the thought itself, but from holding on to it as if it defines you. Understanding this changes everything. You don't need to blame yourself for feeling overwhelmed. You don't need to force your mind into silence. The first step is simply seeing clearly. Thoughts arise because the mind is alive, but you are not required to follow every one of them. When you stop taking every thought personally, the mind begins to soften. Control does not come from force. It comes from understanding. And in that understanding, the mind finally begins to feel lighter, calmer, and more manageable, even in a world that never slows down. Lesson 2. The difference between having thoughts and following them. One of the most important insights in Buddhist philosophy is simple yet rarely practiced. Thoughts arise on their own, but following them is a choice. Most people live as if there is no difference between the two. A thought appears, and immediately they step into it, believe it, and let it decide their mood, their actions, and even their sense of self. But the Buddha taught that thoughts are events in the mind, not commands. They come and go whether you invite them or not. What creates suffering is not their arrival, but the unconscious habit of following them without question. When the mind moves without awareness, it pulls you along like a current. One thought leads to another, and soon you are far from the present moment. A small worry becomes a long inner conversation. A memory becomes regret. An imagined future becomes fear. None of this happens because you chose it deliberately. It happens because the mind was allowed to move unchecked. Buddhism calls this ignorance, not as an insult, but as a description. Ignorance simply means not seeing clearly. When mental movement goes unnoticed, it feels automatic and unavoidable, even though it is not. The practice begins with a gentle pause. The next time a thought arises, instead of reacting, ask yourself quietly, did I choose this thought, or did it choose me? This question creates space. In that space, something powerful happens. You shift from being a participant inside the thought to an observer of it. The thought may still be there, but it no longer controls you in the same way. You can see it, feel it, and allow it to pass without turning it into a story about who you are or what your life means. This is not about suppressing the mind or judging yourself for thinking. It is about reclaiming your freedom. The moment you learn to watch a thought without immediately following it, the mind begins to slow naturally. Clarity replaces confusion. Calm replaces tension. This is the beginning of true control. Not control through force, but control through awareness. And as Buddhism teaches, awareness is the doorway to liberation. Lesson 3. How emotional fatigue hijacks the mind. In 2026, most people are not exhausted because they do too much with their bodies, but because they carry too much with their hearts and minds. Emotional fatigue builds quietly. It comes from unresolved stress, unexpressed frustration, constant pressure to perform, and the habit of pushing through without checking in. You may still be functioning, still working, still responding, but inside there is a heaviness that never fully lifts. When this emotional weight goes unnoticed, the mind becomes unstable, and even small things begin to feel overwhelming. Buddhist philosophy teaches that the mind does not exist separately from emotion. When emotions pile up without awareness, the mind becomes reactive. A tired mind reacts sharply. A burdened mind assumes the worst. A fatigued mind loses patience, clarity, and balance. This is why control feels impossible during emotional exhaustion. It is not because you lack discipline, but because the mind is responding to unrecognized emotional strain. The Buddha never taught calm as suppression. He taught calm as understanding. When emotion is seen early, it loses its power to hijack the mind. The practice is simple, but it requires honesty. Throughout the day, take short pauses, not to escape, but to check in. Ask yourself, what am I feeling right now? Not what you think, not what you should feel, but what is actually present. Tension, irritation, sadness, pressure. Naming the emotion gently is already an act of awareness. Before reacting to a message, a situation, or a person, take a breath and notice your emotional state. This brief moment creates space between feeling and action. When emotions are recognized early, they soften. The mind no longer needs to defend itself or react impulsively. Calm arises not because life becomes lighter, but because you stop carrying invisible weight unconsciously. Buddhism reminds us that awareness is care. When you care for your emotional state with attention, the mind naturally follows. Control begins not by forcing thoughts to behave, but by listening to what the heart has been holding. Lesson 4. Training the mind to stay with one thing. One of the quiet reasons the mind feels unstable today is not because it thinks too much, but because it never stays. Modern life trains attention to jump constantly, from screen to screen, thought to thought, task to task. Even when the body is still, the mind is already somewhere else. This constant movement feels normal, but Buddhism teaches that a mind that cannot stay with one thing cannot feel peace. Stability is not created by doing more. It is created by learning how to remain. In Buddhist philosophy, the ability to stay is a form of strength. Staying with one breath, staying with one task, staying with one moment without reaching for something else. When the mind jumps repeatedly, it never completes a single mental movement. Thoughts begin, but are never finished. Feelings arise, but are never fully felt. This unfinished inner movement creates tension. The mind feels scattered, and scattered attention slowly turns into anxiety. Not because anything is wrong, but because the mind has no ground to rest on. A scattered mind is always slightly unsettled. It is half in the present and half somewhere else. This creates a subtle fear, a sense that something is being missed or that something must be handled immediately. Over time, this restlessness becomes the background of daily life. Buddhism explains that calm does not come from controlling the world, but from stabilizing attention. When attention learns to stay, the mind begins to trust itself again. Training the mind to stay does not require drastic changes. It begins with simplicity, one task at a time. When you eat, just eat. When you walk, just walk. When you listen, just listen. The practice is not about perfection. It is about noticing when the mind leaves and gently bringing it back without judgment. Each return strengthens the mind, just as repeated movement strengthens a muscle. Breath is often used in Buddhism for this reason. The breath is always present, always simple, always available. Staying with one breath teaches the mind how to remain without effort. You are not forcing attention. You are allowing it to settle. Even one conscious breath taken fully can interrupt hours of mental wandering. One moment of presence can restore balance to an entire day. As this practice deepens, something important happens. Focus improves because attention is no longer scattered. Calm arises because the mind is no longer pulled in every direction. Confidence grows because you begin to trust your ability to stay grounded, even when life is busy. This confidence is quiet, not loud. It comes from knowing that your mind can rest where you place it. Buddhism reminds us that peace is not found by escaping stimulation, but by choosing stability within it. One task, one breath, one moment at a time. When the mind learns to stay, anxiety loosens its grip and clarity naturally takes its place. Lesson 5. Why trying to control the mind often backfires. Most people approach the mind as if it were an enemy that needs to be defeated. When an unwanted thought appears, they tense up, argue with it, or try to push it away. When a difficult emotion arises, they resist it, distract themselves, or judge themselves for feeling it. This struggle feels like control, but Buddhism teaches something very different. The harder you fight the mind, the stronger it becomes. Control through force does not create peace. It creates inner conflict. In Buddhist understanding, resistance feeds what it opposes. A thought that is pushed away returns with more intensity. An emotion that is denied finds another way to express itself. This is why people feel trapped in cycles of anxiety or overthinking. They are not weak, they are simply resisting what is already present. The mind interprets resistance as danger, and in response, it tightens its grip. What you resist does not disappear, it grows louder. The Buddha did not teach suppression, he taught understanding. Calm is not created by silencing the mind, but by changing the relationship with it. When you stop fighting thoughts, they begin to lose their urgency. When you stop labeling certain experiences as unacceptable, the mind relaxes. This is not passive surrender. It is wise non-resistance. There is a difference between being controlled by the mind and allowing the mind to move without fear. The practice can be understood through 3 gentle steps: allow, notice, and redirect. First, allow what is present to be there. This does not mean you agree with it or want it to stay. It simply means you stop pushing against reality. Acknowledge the thought or emotion without judgment. This is here, right now. That simple acceptance removes the tension that keeps the mind stuck. Next, notice. Observe the experience as it is. Where do you feel it in the body? How strong is it? Is it changing or staying the same? By noticing without reacting, you step out of the struggle. You become aware instead of entangled. This awareness weakens the habit of identification. The thought is no longer me, it is something happening in the mind. Finally, redirect. Once the mind is no longer locked in resistance, it becomes receptive. Gently guide attention to something steady, such as the breath, a physical sensation, or the present task. This redirection is not forced. It is natural. The mind follows what feels safe. When resistance ends, safety returns. This approach is deep because it respects the mind instead of attacking it. It is mature because it does not promise instant relief or dramatic transformation. It teaches patience, understanding, and trust. Over time, the mind learns that it does not need to defend itself. Thoughts pass more quickly. Emotions soften sooner. The inner struggle dissolves. Buddhism reminds us that peace is not found by winning a battle inside yourself. It is found by ending the battle altogether. When you stop resisting the mind, you stop giving it power over you. Allow. Notice. Redirect. In this gentle rhythm, true control emerges, not through force, but through wisdom. Lesson 6. Replacing inner noise with inner discipline. For many people, the word discipline carries a harsh meaning. It sounds like force, pressure, or punishment, something rigid that demands willpower and self-control. Because of this misunderstanding, people either avoid discipline altogether or attempt it in short bursts, only to burn out and return to old habits. Buddhism offers a very different understanding. True discipline is not loud, aggressive, or cruel. It is kind, consistent, and quiet. It does not fight the mind, it trains it. Inner noise comes from a lack of structure, not from a lack of effort. When the mind does not know what to expect, it becomes restless. It jumps ahead, looks for stimulation, and reacts impulsively. Many people believe they need more motivation to quiet their mind, but Buddhism teaches that motivation is unstable. Discipline, when practiced gently, creates stability, and stability calms the mind naturally. Buddhist discipline begins with rhythm. The mind learns through repetition, not intensity. A simple, predictable daily rhythm gives the mind a sense of safety. Waking up at a consistent time is one of the most powerful forms of mental training. It signals order. The mind stops negotiating and starts cooperating. This is not about early mornings or strict schedules. It is about consistency. When the body and mind wake at the same time each day, mental resistance slowly fades. Silence is another essential part of discipline. Not silence as isolation, but silence as space. Even a few minutes without input, no phone, no conversation, no media, allows the mind to settle. Buddhism values silence because it reveals the natural state of the mind beneath noise. This silence does not need to be dramatic. It can be a few quiet breaths before the day begins, or a short pause between tasks. These moments teach the mind that it does not need constant stimulation to feel safe. Evening reflection completes the rhythm. Instead of collapsing into distraction at the end of the day, Buddhism encourages gentle reflection, not judgment, not analysis, simply noticing. What did you carry today? What can be set down before sleep? This practice clears mental residue. It prevents the mind from carrying unfinished emotional weight into the night. Over time, sleep deepens and mental clarity improves. This form of discipline works because it respects human nature. It does not demand perfection. It does not rely on force. It relies on repetition and care. The mind responds to what is consistent, not to what is extreme. When structure is gentle, the mind does not rebel. It begins to cooperate. As inner discipline strengthens, inner noise fades. Not because thoughts disappear, but because they lose urgency. The mind no longer needs to shout to be heard. Calm becomes familiar. Focus becomes natural. Confidence grows quietly, rooted in trust rather than effort. Buddhism reminds us that discipline is not about controlling life. It is about creating conditions where the mind can rest. Kind, consistent, quiet. When discipline is practiced this way, the mind does not feel constrained. It feels supported. And in that support, clarity begins to replace chaos. Lesson 7. Becoming the leader of your inner world. Every mind needs leadership. Not control through force, not dominance, but direction. When leadership is absent, something else always takes its place. Fear begins to decide. Old habits repeat themselves. External voices grow louder than inner truth. This is not because the mind is weak, but because it is impressionable. Left without guidance, it follows the strongest influence in the moment. Buddhism teaches that suffering begins not when life becomes difficult, but when the mind is led unconsciously. Most people believe their identity is fixed. They say, "This is just how I am," without realizing that what they call personality is often unexamined habit. The mind repeats patterns because they feel familiar, not because they are correct. Fear feels familiar. Self-doubt feels familiar. Reacting without awareness feels familiar. But familiarity is not truth. It is conditioning. When awareness is absent, conditioning becomes leadership, and life begins to feel automatic rather than intentional. Buddhist philosophy offers a radical shift. Leadership of the mind does not come from stronger thoughts or louder beliefs. It comes from awareness. Awareness is the ability to see what is happening without being carried away by it. When awareness is present, fear loses its authority. Habits lose their grip. External voices lose their power. The mind does not need to be silenced. It needs to be seen. And what is seen clearly no longer controls you. This is an identity shift. You are no longer the thoughts that arise. You are the one who notices them. You are no longer the emotion that moves through you. You are the space that allows it. This shift is subtle, but it changes everything. When awareness becomes your reference point, the mind begins to follow rather than lead. Decisions slow down. Reactions soften. Life feels less chaotic, even when circumstances remain the same. If you do not consciously lead your inner world, it will be led by whatever is loudest. Fear will urge you to avoid discomfort. Habit will keep you repeating the past. External voices will tell you who to be, what to want, and how to measure your worth. Buddhism does not ask you to fight these forces. It asks you to see them clearly. Once seen, they lose authority. Leadership returns to where it belongs. This leadership is quiet. It does not announce itself. It shows up as pause before reaction, as choice instead of impulse, as steadiness in moments that once caused collapse. Over time, the mind learns to trust this presence. It stops searching for direction outside. It stops clinging to old patterns. Awareness becomes the anchor. Ending this journey is not about inspiration. It is about responsibility. The Buddha taught that freedom begins when you stop waiting for the mind to behave and start guiding it with clarity. Awareness is not passive. It is active leadership. It is the steady hand on the inner wheel. When you lead your inner world, life does not become perfect, but it becomes aligned. Fear no longer decides your path. Habit no longer defines your future. External noise no longer overrides inner truth. The mind follows awareness, and when awareness leads, peace becomes possible, not as an idea, but as a lived experience. As you reach the end of this reflection, take a moment to notice how your mind feels right now. Not perfectly calm, not completely silent, but perhaps a little steadier than before. This is the future Buddhism points toward, not a life without challenges, but a mind that can meet those challenges without being shaken, a mind that knows how to pause, how to see clearly, and how to remain present even when the world moves quickly. This steadiness is not something you force into existence. It grows naturally when understanding replaces struggle. True control has never meant domination. It does not mean suppressing thoughts, silencing emotions, or forcing the mind into obedience. Control, in its deepest sense, is understanding. When you understand how the mind works, how it reacts, how it drifts, and how it returns, you stop fighting it. You begin to guide it. And in that guidance, tension softens, anxiety loosens. The mind learns that it does not need to defend itself to survive. This path is not rushed. Buddhism does not ask you to change everything at once. It asks you to walk slowly, to return again and again to awareness, even after losing it, especially after losing it. Each return strengthens the mind. Each moment of presence deepens trust. Over time, this quiet practice reshapes how you move through life. You respond instead of react. You listen instead of assume. You remain grounded while everything else shifts. If this reflection helped you slow down and see clearly, stay with this space. Return often. Walk the path gently. And let awareness become something you carry with you, not just something you visit.